So with Dune Part 1 out, I thought it would be really good for us to talk about the future of this franchise, of what the possibilities could be in a Dune 2. Obviously, Dune Part 1 has been one of those titles, guys, that lots of people are absolutely loving. They're, the scope of it, all of those different things, feeling like a Lord of the Rings and obviously a Star Wars film kind of built in to both of those things. And I want to talk about Dune Part 2 and everything that we know so far about this title, what it could be, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So guys, in an article written by Thomas Lethbridge of Screen Rant, Denis Villeneuve's new Dune film only tells half the story from the original novel, emphasizing the need for there to be a Dune Part 2. Now, guys, warning, this is going to contain spoilers from the Dune book, so, you've been warned if you haven't seen the original Dune Part 1, or if you have not read the books. Despite its extended runtime and in-depth world building, Denis Villeneuve's Dune only tells half the story of Frank Herbert's original novel. Although the creative decision to split the story in half may frustrate some fans, it does emphasize the need for a follow-up. While Dune Part 2 is yet to be greenlit, the positive reception to the new movie means that a concluding chapter is looking increasingly likely. The Dune story focuses on Paul Atreides, the teenage son of Duke Leto, who travels to the desert planet Arrakis with his father. Arrakis, also known as Dune, is a desert planet and the only known center for the production of spice, a mystical substance that can both heighten awareness and fuel interstellar travel. Although the Atreides head to Arrakis to reform spice production and increase prosperity, it soon becomes clear that they have walked into a trap laid by the Pandish Emperor and their mortal enemies. Paul is forced to flee with his mother, the Lady Jessica, before mustering a rebellious fighting force from the local people, the Freemen. So, okay, let me give you guys kind of a little bit of, for me personally, after watching the first Dune film, and I finished it recently, and Dune Part 1, guys, a couple of things here. Number one, do I think it's as good as a lot of other people are saying it is? I do not. I think Dune Part 1 was pretty awesome from a visual perspective, cinematography. I thought the acting was great as well. Just a lot of those camera shots were just so well done. I felt, though, that there was a significant lull in the movie. I thought that they could have really shortened the length of the movie at certain points through time. I felt that it kind of dragged on, especially near the end. And obviously the sandworms, or whatever those worms were called, those were really awesome, and I'm glad that that was a part of the story. I just wish that there was more than just, it felt like so much of the time it was kind of more so about them. And then obviously the Emperor was obviously a pretty sinister, personality in Dune Part 1. But I just wanted there to be more, like more creatures, just more in general, in my opinion. That's what I kind of wanted. A lot of people are pointing to Star Wars as a comparison to Dune, but in Star Wars, you've got all kinds of different creatures and planets and things of that nature. And I feel like Dune could have done a really good job of kind of introducing more to it. It kind of builds that legacy, the lore, the story, I feel, when you're kind of showing a little bit more some of the more, other sinister, baddies, I guess you could say, in this universe outside of just the sandworms and such. I just would have liked to see a little bit more than what was given. And like I said, it did kind of lull for me slightly. But that doesn't get away from what I thought of, like, from a visual perspective. The scope of it is incredible. I thought that the acting was brilliant. And Zendaya, I really wanted to see more of her character in this story. She doesn't really come in until the end of the movie, and that I thought was unfortunate, because I really wanted to see and learn more about her. Now, maybe we're going to learn more about her in Part 2, but I'm judging it based on Part 1 being just its own thing. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. Now, the novel itself concludes with the destruction of House Harkonnen and the installation of Paul, now known by his followers as Muad'Dib, as the next emperor. However, Villeneuve's new movie finishes long before these events and instead focuses on setting up the narrative and establishing the world of Dune. As a result, there is still much of the story left to be told in a future concluding film. So why Dune is split into two parts. Although Frank Herbert's original 412-page novel is by no means the longest book to receive a theatrical adaptation, the universe it established is incredibly complex. In addition to the futuristic setting, the story incorporated elements of mysticism, philosophy, extrasensory perception, religion, genetics, and technology. This means that any adaptation has to first indulge in extensive world building in order to create something believable. By splitting the film into 2 parts, Villeneuve has given himself the best opportunity to deliver a faithful recreation that does justice to Herbert's hallowed source material. This could also represent a lesson learned from David Lynch's Pan 1984 version, which attempted to do it all in just 2 hours and unsurprisingly fell short. So, okay, I would say this, guys. Denis Villeneuve is one of the best directors in the world, and it's not even close. I mean, he has done an incredible job. I thought Arrival was my favorite movie by him. I thought that was number 1. I thought Sicario was very good as well, but Arrival, for sure, to me, was his best movie he's made. And better than Dune. Like I said, I like Dune for what it is. I thought that he did a really good job of the cinematography and just kind of putting a lot of these pieces together to kind of start at least introducing and building this story from the very, foundation. I just thought that this kind of fell short in certain areas, unfortunately. And that's just for me. That's just my opinion. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts about it in the comment section down below. But that does not take away from Denis Villeneuve being a fantastic director. So would I like him to do part 2? Absolutely. Now, several key characters would have to return for Dune Part 2 to be a success. Not only would Timothy Chalamet's Paul Atreides need to feature prominently, but figures such as Javier Bardem's Stigler, Zendaya's Shani, and Rebecca Ferguson's Lady Jessica will also need to play significant parts. However, should the film follow the book, several characters would not make return appearances. Oscar Isaac's Duke Leto, for instance, would not appear unless in flashback form after his death at the hands of the Harkonnens, nor would David Peter DeVries or Jason Momoa's Duncan Idaho after their own respective demises. So here we go, guys. What happens in the book here? Well, the new movie covers roughly half of the original novel up until Paul's meeting with the Freeman tribe led by Stigler. This means that Dune Part 2, should it actually happen, will be an action-packed blockbuster focused on the guerrilla war between Paul's Freeman and Arrakis' Harkonnen oppressors. After a 2-year conflict, Paul will eventually emerge victorious and even successfully depose the Emperor after he attempts to bring Arrakis to heel with the presence of his elite Sardaukar stormtroopers. This sets the stage for the wider Dune saga and the ascension of House Atreides. Now, here's what I got to say about this, guys. Making a second Dune movie, I think is awesome because, separating into 2 films, I think was actually pretty smart because there's just so much to unpack there. I didn't read the original book, but knowing that a lot of movies that are being, obviously books that are being adapted into movies, this is starting to become more commonplace. But what I will say about it is, guys, is that I think that there's an opportunity that if they were to make a sequel to Dune Part 1, make Part 2, I would not be surprised whatsoever if they started doing spin-offs and prequels and things of that nature to Dune, because there's a good chance that a lot of people are saying that this could be like the next Star Wars, and if that's the case, they would definitely milk this for all that it's worth. Now, there's been a lot of talk, guys, that Denis Villeneuve would not make a sequel to Dune Part 1 because of what happened with HBO Max having, obviously the movie Dune Part 1 go on to HBO Max same time it goes to theaters, and a lot of people don't like that. I'm okay with it, but because I believe it's just kind of the way of the future, but a lot of people did not like that. They wanted it to be, to go to theaters first and then go to HBO Max. Nonetheless, though, Denis Villeneuve was not happy with Warner Brothers for doing that, to say the least. Now, as far as the release date goes, guys, and this is all purely speculation, although there's been no official confirmation of the sequel, plans for expanding the Dune series are already underway. Not only has screenwriter Eric Roth confirmed that a full treatment for Dune Part 2 has already been written, but director Denis Villeneuve revealed in an interview with Total Film that he is optimistic that the project will go ahead. As he explained it would need a really bad outcome at the box office to not have a Dune Part 2 because the studio loved the movie. They are proud of the movie, so they want the movie to move forward, and they still did half of it. So, I'm very optimistic. This means that if filming starts in 2022, there's a chance a follow-up could hit cinemas in 2023. So, That's pretty optimistic. I would say maybe a little bit later than that, guys. Denis Villeneuve, I'm sure, is going to be working on other projects. It may take a little bit for them to have those contract negotiations to make sure that, hey, Dune Part 2, we want that to go to theaters first and then go to HBO Max or somewhere else. That being said, we'll have to kind of wait and see, guys. I'll be sure to give you guys more information as it comes out. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Should they make a Dune Part 2? I think the answer is obvious, but who should be the director? Should they, be creating other prequel movies outside of Dune? What do you guys think should happen here? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Dune content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.